recording this because this is, I guess, what I consider to be a source of truth type approach. By recording this, I'll be able to feed it to my AI Studios, Google, and we can parse to make sure that these ideas are delineated quickly and captured during a time when I'm actually pausing and stepping through the system piece by piece to be in alignment to see where these things are being implemented. So far, and this will be slow and tedious because okay, this is the intended implementation. Uh, Initially, you should be able to step into the software and say good morning. Once you say good morning, it's going to take you to a fork in the road. That fork in the road essentially involves choosing whether you're going to do a morning data dump or whether you're going to retrieve the mental context of last night. What were you thinking? What were the things you tucked away the night before for first thing in the morning? Um, the app immediately picks up, it should pick up with Dionysus, which is the um, main gateway into the system. Dionysus connects to Daedalus. Daedalus will dispatch either an agent that does intake or an agent that does output, depending on the flow of the initial conversation. This is the desired flow of memory processing, including going across the basins. And I'm reviewing this now as well because it should be like crystal clear in my head so that I make sure I'm keeping them on track. Input of memory. The memory initially goes across the basins. It activates specific relevant basins, the attractors, the specific information based off where it feels like it's meaningful. I'm not sure whether it needs to pass through the hmm, I don't know whether in order to have that useful stuff, there's some background where the information has to go to the vector database and has to go to the graph database. As I'm saying that, I'm realizing that it may be that the input has to happen a little bit. Excuse me, has to happen um, all the way through before the output can happen. Um, so so um, yeah. Again, this is gonna be messy because I'm thinking as I go, and I want to make sure that I don't get sidetracked. So at this point, even narrating this is kind of a distracting. So let me focus on the work. You ride along if you want to. Um, Instead of brain dump, probably some other language. Um, yeah, let's not say brain dump. Let's find something more aspirational slash inspirational. Okay. Also, point of clarity. Let's make sure that we're extricating the Archon framework and that we're being mindful that these things that are going on, we do want in our framework sooner than later. As a matter of fact, even as we're building our debugging framework in parallel with the desktop app, let's go ahead and make sure that we're able to see those things so we can make decisions downline with those things being clearly managed. As a matter of fact, have Datalist create a separate agent that manages interface. So let's make sure we delegate that to a view component on some level that can manage the subcomponents from there. Um, it's worth looking into MCP UI and seeing if that would be a useful way to do it. I believe that framework is also MCP based. So let's look at that. Did it fail? Let's have Datalist immediately delegate to a custom view interface. Um, let's look at MCP UI. I believe that's the name of it, the framework that allows us to use uh, like MCPs, MCP-based mechanism of giving agents visual faces so that different agents can be delegated to like narrower contexts and those contexts be represented visually. And always, 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 please check the context engineering class as the first place to pull patterns, to pull parts, no rewriting parts that already exist. That's already in the rules several times, so I shouldn't have to repeat this, but here we are. The build memory pipeline processing, please check existing code. By the time we're done today, I want to have gone through all the memory components, or at least have seen all of them and have a specific plan for unifying, clarifying, removing redundancy, and making sure that they're up to best practices. Any type of decay settings and stuff, if we can have dashboards where these more detailed elements can be toggled so that they don't show up and that they're not noticeably missing from a basic interface, it should be that an advanced user knows to tap certain things, and that's when um, a particular pane or panel will expand. The thought seed decomposition is a foundational component. Ultimately, I want to make sure that's working well and that different elements can be seen. Therefore, I want to look at the attractor basin and see what features the current attractor has, what their initial, the context engineering course, initial attractor has, what elements we've added to enhance the attractor, how that attractor relates to the thought seed, how the thought seed is competing, what factors determine its level of competition, to what extent, how transparent are the things that it's competing with, where they come from, where they retrieved, how do they decide amongst them who ends up on the inner screen, how does this relate to active inference, um, those things. The Notion integration is high priority, but I don't want to have to foreground it because you were supposed to build that forever ago. Um, so make sure that this stuff is getting captured. Right now, if you got to make it ugly, just make sure that the information is getting to the pages. The pages should be organized and nested. There should be a journal every day. So I think a main focus for today is to make sure everything we say of importance, these outlines, these checklists, these tasks, should be in the Notion. There should be documentation in the Notion. When I say to put something in Notion because it's important, it should be actually going into a dated Notion and getting linked to other relevant stuff. I want that happening. It's not thus far. I'd like to, when the information is going in, I'm aware that it's activating certain things in the attractor basin. I'd like a peek at the level of information we have. What do we know about the activated attractors? Do we know how much? Do we know what their content is? Can we get a sense of the context of their previous deconsolidation? Is there some sort of history being recorded? Most importantly, is this learning being committed to our database so we are increasing our knowledge of relations of these concepts and even of these sub-symbolic concepts. Of course, I want this implemented incrementally. I don't want us getting bogged down in these right now. So there's a good chance that a lot of this will end up just in pseudocode or in Notion. I just want to make sure that this is being captured more than implemented. But I do want us to focus on the thought seed passing through and showing initially just a quick pass and sort of in jumps. It goes here, it goes here, it goes here. I want a big picture, and then I want to choose where we're going to zoom in. We'll zoom in, get some of that crystal clear detail in that, and then we'll zoom out and continue with the process. So that's outside of everything I'm saying here for tracking. I'm just reading through your prior messages to make sure I got everything. But that's our priorities, the thought seed, regardless of what else I'm listing here, just for documentation. As an aside, and answer this and in its own section, to what extent are we able to now use the local database that we have for rehearsal, for practice. If we need to break that out into a separate piece of code or a separate service, I want that background practice and self learning to be happening, but I don't want it happening on the paid servers. I want it happening on my local, I believe it's Llama implementation. What are Pareto fronts in multi-object objective optimization? You say Pareto fronts instead of single objectives. And what is generative error correction with performance analysis? Tell me more about that. And the joint embedding predictive architecture from Meta's approach. Just give me some more details about that, and I'll ask questions for depth, but don't flood me. Just give me some, a little bit more. To what extent are we able to tap into the Redis interagent coordination? Is that something that Daedalus is automatically using to exchange information between agents? Is that something we can tap into? What are the best practices for interacting with that? In the implementation priority order, I want to make sure that we're implementing bare bone analytics so that I need to be able to see what's going on here. It's been very frustrating the last few laps. I need that up front so I can have the reassurance that everything we're doing I can see on a screen and get an idea of what information is being passed, etc. Let's begin with the thought seed decomposition engine so that I can get an idea of what content is actually in that data envelope, its relationship to the attractors, and whatever else I need to know. The level to which it's agentic. I believe there's a paper I put in there talking about thought seeds are agentic, and I'd like to understand to what extent what gives it the label. Can they each perform functions or what? Can you give me a separate, rich deconstruction and explanation of the river model and context engineering? Um, yes, I want a deeper understanding of that. Oh, you already asked for it. what are the six research streams with Dynamics? Do you have the document that includes the research from IBM? Follow the research links discussed in this paper, including the IBM documents. Particularly check the reference section. Bring me back summaries of all the research mentioned in here with embedded links so I can follow up and clarifying and organizing information so that this is a coherent draft. that was super shallow. I don't know what just happened there, but I mean that was super shallow. That wasn't research. That was super disappointingly shallow. You didn't go into any of the nooks and crannies like you usually do. I don't understand. Do it again and do it right. Disappointing. Give me an in-depth understanding of these, the link and the document attached. I want a comprehensive exploration of the links mentioned in there, a deep understanding of context engineering, a surfacing of the river metaphor and the different resources they've used to understand it. Give me a deep exploration. what's available in the cognitive framework that's included in the context engineering that is in documents, um, in my GitHub folder in there, in the context engineering folder. Is someone knocking or am I hallucinating? Yes, to all three of what I would like you to do. Let's begin with the river flow visualization for real time pipeline monitoring. So that'll be a good big picture if we can have that model visualizable. And then from there, we can deal with thought seed decomposition as a process. So I'll break this off here.